building POCs with generative AI is super simple, and then you believe like you are going to conquer the world next week. Some people say it's like MBA in practice, right? So like you don't get the degree, but like you actually learn like even more. The other thing I think I learned not to be obsessed about the news, understanding what it is, whether it's useful for us or not. I just connect to Matrix at night, and then like, in Poland we tend to complain, right? I usually joke that it was so bad that we had to pay doctors to use it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our series of interviews with AI leaders. My name is Maciej Domagawa, and I am a machine learning tech lead at DeepSense AI. Together with me, co-hosting is Alicja Stecz, our strategic projects lead. Hello, Alicja.
Hi, Maciek. Hi, Karol. Great to see you today. Hello, everyone.
And of course, we are thrilled to have Karol Traczykowski with us, who is a head of AI at Docplanner. Karol, thank you for being here, and nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, hello everyone.
Okay, so obviously we've got to know each other through our collaboration with Docplanner, but just for everyone listening, I would like to introduce our guests. So Karol is a management team member at Docplanner, a leading global healthcare platform known in Poland as Znany Lekarz. After building the function from scratch, Karol spearheads the company's initiatives at AI. And with a background that bridges programming, product development, as well as business strategy, Karol has launched several business-to-business as well as business-to-customer products across multiple countries. And prior to his tenure at Docplanner, he progressed from a programmer to CTO and eventually CEO at Golden Line Pell. So first of all, Karol, would that be the accurate introduction, or would you like to add anything to that?
I think it is. Thank you very much. So yeah, I think like the interesting parts and like the ingredients that's helped me thrive at Docplanner, the VPI of AI solutions function, is that basically I had an opportunity to start my career as a programmer, actually like a developer working with web applications, scaling the web applications, and like, so that's kind of like technical background and like development, etc. At the same time, very quickly we actually started working together with product team, R&D team, UX team at that time at Golden Line. So we really looked into like not only like how to develop features and what's the technical part, but like actually how to deliver value to the end users, and like how to change the features, iterate with the features so they actually grow over time, not just like deliver the feature out there and that's it. Like, end of a project, like project delivered and that's it. Actually, we used to think a lot how to grow it, how to work on adoption, how to make it much better for the end users, and then actually it's gave me an amazing ground for then like working on new products and new initiatives and like bringing them to the market, to doctors and patients.
Nice. I'm really happy that you mentioned the programmer part, because actually a bit later I'll want to ask you several questions about that. But for now, obviously we know Docplanner quite well through our collaboration. But just for everyone listening, could you give us maybe like a brief introduction into the company, the DNA, the characteristics, something that basically can give people some idea of what you do as a company?
Sure. So like basically, as you mentioned, we are a leading healthcare platform that like operates globally. We come from Poland, but we operate in more than 10 countries. We are leaders in like 15 countries, I think. The most important countries for us are Poland, Italy, Spain, Germany, and Turkey in Europe, plus Mexico and Brazil on the other side of the ocean. Those are like top 6, top 7 countries. And like for most of the people, most of the consumers, we are basically known as a platform for the patients to find the best doctors in their neighborhood, to read the reviews and then book online without waiting on the phone. So this is what we are known for. But then at the same time, we are actually like a software for doctors as well. Doctors, medium-sized clinics, large clinics, and also like enterprise clinics and hospitals. So we have software as a service that is available globally, that started as a agenda and then basically helps doctor manage their agenda with all the world-class features and functionalities and uptime, etc. Like managing your queues, sending notifications, minimizing no-show, sending confirmations, etc. So that's one thing. But then we also added electronic health record, all the backbone of the doctor's practice for this globally available SaaS. At the same time, or after some time, we actually acquired a couple of local players that are like super tailored to the local, like specific country functionalities, right? So we own those PMSs, so like practice management software, in most of the countries where we operate. So that gives us like also the kind of like deep engagement into doctors' practice, how they run the whole practice, but also how they work with patients.
Thank you for the overview about the company. As you mentioned, Docplanner is a global healthcare platform, a very product-driven organization, right? So I can imagine that you operate in a highly dynamic environment. You have to adapt quickly. So I'm very curious, how did you begin your AI journey? So what was your approach? For example, did you drop everything and then suddenly focus on AI, or did you take more gradual approach here?
Yeah. So one thing I didn't mention about Docplanner, and I think it's important here as well, is that basically we operate since like we already managed to grow quite a lot. Like we work with 260K doctors who use our paid services, and we process more than 20 million user bookings, not user bookings, like 20 million bookings every month, right? So basically, this gives us scale and kind of like also like view insight, like what happens. But like going into AI or generative AI stuff. So like first of all, like we used to have some machine learning models inside the organization before GPT erupted. But they used to be like machine learning models more for the business intelligence team to work with like churn prediction, upsell prediction, etc. Like we didn't really have anything sophisticated in-house built for doctors or patients, and it was not because we were like not knowledgeable or ignorant. We actually, our like chief product officer actually has a PhD in machine learning, so like we knew what was there. Like but the truth is that there was nothing that allowed us to ship new capabilities for doctors on a massive scale globally, right? So like we all know about like AI models, machine learning models, prediction for the diagnostics, especially like image diagnostics. Those are like super impressive results for, but usually for the quite niche topics, niche diseases or symptoms, and at the same time they usually operate with image diagnostics, etc. So like a different a little bit different set of activities that our doctors work with. So that like some solutions were there, some technologies were there, but like it was not up until GPT erupted. So like we probably like we call it like the beginning of the generative AI era. Again, like generative AI models were there. So like after that time, like it was quite immediately obvious for us that this could bring enormous possibilities for healthcare, and the most important reason is that healthcare is probably one of the biggest areas of our life that was not really disrupted or not really digitalized in a proper way. So like usually like technology and digitalization gets to doctors as new set of duties, new set of forms to fill, etc. Right? So like basically it was more of a burden for the doctors. That's one thing, and then the other, if we think about it, we will all realize that like a lot of information, a lot of communication in healthcare system is still delivered in natural language these days. So like if you think about patient doctor consultation, if you think about recommendations from the doctor you get, if you think about the electronic health record, those are all like plain text notes that are like before were not super easy for to analyze. Obviously we had like named and entity recognition models that's allowed companies to structure the nodes, but it was like always a little bit like underperforming. Plus, it was just like part of the problem that was addressed. So after like we started playing with technology, basically we decided to run a hackathon inside the company to see what's possible, because like we on one side we had worked with doctors and patients already for many years at that time, so we knew their pain points, their problems, etc. So it was like always quite clear what solutions, what value we would like to deliver. At the same time, we were just like learning about the new technology. So we organized an internal hackathon to basically play with what's possible. So at that time, we actually had a couple of ideas, and the idea we decided to move on was at that time called Copilot. So it was the idea that's now it's called Noa Notes, that we would like to automate creating the electronic health record for the doctors based on the patient-doctor consultation at the office, not teleconsultation only. Although the initial idea was teleconsultation only, but basically we decided to go with the in-office setup. Yeah, but maybe like a full stop here.
Yeah, thank you for that. It was very interesting. So, from what you just said, I understand that you started doing AI a long time ago, but it wasn't your main priority. And then when GenAI appeared, you saw the huge potential. You organized this hackathon and thought a bit more about AI, right?
Yeah, that's true. So like we organized hackathon, plus also we decided to create this function. So I had the opportunity to lead it from scratch. Like we had nothing, like no team, no processes, no technologies, no tools, etc. Especially with this like generative AI, right? So like we had some stuff for the classical ML models, but like not for generative AI. So one thing was hackathon and like working on this Copilot at that time, now Noa Notes. The other project we started was at that time called AI Secretary, now called Noa Booking. So basically, I would say in plain language, the voice bot to help you book online to the doctor's appointment. We run as Docplanner online booking, but we know that still a lot of people prefer to call, or at least they believe that's like a better way to book. And then the receptionists or the doctors have to answer a lot of phone calls. So we wanted to automate it. We actually built the POC. The POC was amazing. So actually, like building POCs with generative AI is super simple, and then you believe like you are going to conquer the world the next week, because it's how amazing it is. Um, and then I mean, like we decided to invest in it. We started adding more and more functionalities, like if the patients would like to be connected to the doctor, then please redirect. If patient wants to disconnect, and then some edge cases and some ifs and conditions, etc. And then it started falling apart. So like actually then it was about the time when we meet you guys, DeepSense team, and Maciek and colleagues joined us. We created the team consisting from both DeepSense team, 2-3 people, and 2-3 people from Docplanner. We created this joint team, and we managed to rewrite it from scratch, to the stage where today we actually believed that it's going to work, and it worked. And it's like the conversion, our like KPI at that time, and still is the conversion from the incoming phone call to booking made. And we managed to get super close to the human benchmark, and now we are like scaling the solution.
Yeah, I still remember that. And I remember that we're really impressed by how many things you've built in such a short time. So, yeah, really congrats on that. And I also remember when we talked about your AI vision for Docplanner a year ago, and I really got the sense that you had a clear idea of where you were headed in terms of AI development. And that makes me wonder about the process of creating this AI vision. How did you approach this? As I understand, you started with just taking actions and doing these POCs, but I'm very curious, where did you start creating this AI vision here?
So I think like there's no like a specific point in time where we said, okay, now it's time. It was more like on one side we saw that we are able to work with this technology, and actually like building the first version is like pretty easy. Then we can discuss like what we learned after that, like that it's actually not that easy to launch a scalable, reliable solution to the market and to the doctors, especially in healthcare. But we saw that like the possible, like we can play and we can do some magic with this technology. We saw some first results from doctors that it actually resonates with them. Plus we were able to see like continuous super fast progress of the technology, right? So especially from today's perspective, we can see how much the models improved, how much cheaper it became. So it was clear for us that we can actually build. I mean, like this could be pivotal. This should be pivotal to the healthcare market, to the company's strategy. So we already had those two ideas now called Noa Booking and Noa Notes, but we started thinking, okay, like what other pain points of doctors and that we know about we could address with this tech, right? So like on one side we treat AI as like another tool, so we should not be obsessed about it, and especially when we pitch it to the doctors, it's not about the technology, it's about the jobs to be done and pain points to be addressed and value delivered. But like we see AI as a kind of like amazing enabler to deliver value that was not possible to be delivered before. So we actually started thinking, okay, if you think about healthcare markets, basically the situation is that on one side we are getting older as a society, and the number of interactions we're going to need with doctors is growing quite fast. On the other side, the number of doctors is not growing that fast. So and actually in some countries, in some specialties, the number of doctors is like stagnating or even going down. So we have this a mismatch of demands of doctors interactions and like us needing the help of the doctor, of the healthcare practitioner. On the other side, the supply is not growing fast enough. So our thinking is that if we don't help optimize the healthcare system efficiency, it might collapse. So actually we all know about like super long queues and waiting times to get in the for the public doctor in Poland. We hear from colleagues from from UK that it's also tough to get to the primary care doctor. You have to wait like 1 week or 2 weeks with like some not that mild symptoms. So like it already happens. So it's not that it's a theoretical thing that may happen in some years. So with this thinking that like we have to fix the healthcare efficiency, we want to use AI in two stages. So basically in the first stage we would like to like help or like remove or minimize administrative burden that has been put on the doctors and medical personnel. And then in the second stage we actually would like to help doctors make better decisions, make better diagnosis, and even handle some cases for them, right? So they don't actually have to spend time on the things that do not require the extensive knowledge that they spend years obtaining and then experience like getting experience with. So basically we believe we will be able to handle some of the health issues for the doctors with the doctors, but without them actually spending time. So that's how we see it. That's why we created Noa, the healthcare assistant. So we would like to kind of like add new skills to Noa Notes and Noa Booking are the first ones that actually address this administrative burden, right? So like we would like doctors not to spend time typing on keyboard. We would like to liberate them from the keyboard. We would like to allow them to focus on the patient and their treatment, right? So we hear from the doctors that it's possible for them to save up to 30% of their time and be less tired at the end of the day. So this is where we would like to go first with minimizing the administrative burden, and then go with like improving the outcome, improving the quality of the decision, and like handling some cases for the doctors.
That's very interesting. Actually, I wanted to just link to things that you've mentioned, because first of all, there is this technical proactivity that you have as a company, which is running hackathons, making POCs, and sort of embracing the technology and letting it sort of guide through new things that are emerging, and then trying to adapt and basically bring value through that. And the other thing is that healthcare is a quite specific and narrow field, and I do believe that working with healthcare means some different expectations from clients, perhaps, or maybe some different than other industries, different standards, perhaps, given the fragile nature of healthcare in general. So I was wondering if there is anything specific or unique standing out when working with clinics and doctors as clients. So do you have any thoughts about that, and how do you and your team approach those when designing solutions, for instance?
With healthcare, maybe we should divide two parts. The first one is like this administrative part, where Docplanner has a lot of experience with. There's kind of like managing the agenda, managing the queues, and like answering the phone calls, this kind of stuff. Like you are in healthcare, but it's still, and like you obviously play with super sensitive patient data, healthcare data, who booked what doctor, and like maybe there was some like a reason of the visit. You run the electronic health record, so you have to be super secure with the data and how you process, and like your processes and security procedures has to be super solid. But I would say this part is still easier, and like it's like more similar to any other kind of business, I would say. So obviously you work with doctors who are professionals, and you have to learn how to talk to them. But I would say this is more or less you are able to move faster, and like there are no super specific regulations or certificates that you have to obtain, in comparison to getting into this like clinical and diagnosis part of healthcare, where you actually have to be super careful about what you deliver, about like giving doctors the the right guidance, suggestions, etc. And like if you want to go on a big scale and actually get into influencing how doctors make decisions, you have to get into medical device regulation, etc., etc. So those are like two different words that it's worth to probably distinguish here. Up until now, we've been mostly operating the first one, even though we started partnering with the doctors during the patient doctor appointment. So we help them prepare the draft of the medical documentation. It's still like we are the scribe, right? We are not the second brain of the doctor that helps them make different diagnoses. I think I mean, like for sure, we will get there. Up until now, we've been operating in this more administrative part. Here I would say still we are super pragmatic, and also we believe that it's better to go out to the doctors and start working with them, even if your product is not 100% ready, because probably it won't be 100% ready at any time. So the sooner you get out and to start talking to them, the better. So actually, with the at that time co-pilot, now Noa Notes, we worked with doctors like when it was like barely ready. Like I'm like it worked for us, but like we are not doctors, right? So we had to have doctors input to see whether it's like suitable for them or not. So at the very beginning, we actually paid doctors for using the tool. So it was I usually joke that it was so bad that we had to pay doctors to use it. Maybe it not was that so bad, but actually we were not sure, right? So like we paid them to use the tool and give us feedback, and that allowed us to like improve the tool super fast. So I would still say that there is a way to start working with the doctors, even in healthcare, in a more scrappy way. But obviously, the more doctors you want to use the tool, the more careful you have to be, and like decide what you want to do, what you don't want
Yeah.
to do. Yeah.
And do you think that actually, because you mentioned that right now the product is in a more of a administrative phase, so you're helping sort of, as you mentioned, you're like the scribe for the doctor, right?
Yeah.
So you are just helping to take this burden of doing some redundant work sometimes, you know, after hours or something like that, and you just help with that, and this is great. But do you feel like when you actually want to go to the next level in terms of what you mentioned, being a second brain for the doctor, for instance, so just going a bit deeper into what they do actually, do you think that this might be a bit more difficult to get them to actually, you know, get them on board with using that? Do you feel like this might be this kind of a wall between, you know, this is a cool tool that automates my work, this is great, and then, wow, this is someone who's an imposter and doing what I'm educated to do, you know? Do you feel like this might be a problem at some point, a challenge?
Yeah, so like I think it will be a challenge for adoption, but let me get back and like comment on your question. So like I would not undervalue. I don't think it was your intention. Undervalue this like administrative burden, right? So like we hear from the doctors that thanks to Noa Notes, they are able to save up to 30% of their time, and like they're able to focus on the patient, and they enjoy medicine again, right? Because like they are actually able to focus on diagnosing, not switch their focus from like keyboard monitor patient all the time, right? That we also experience as patients. Like, you know, you start giving your symptoms to the doctor, and like you don't know if it's okay to like continue talking, or like you should stop for a moment because the doctor is typing, or like, you know, whether the doctor is able to listen and type at the same time, etc. So we like just sharing two stories on that. So like we hear doctors, one doctor urologist told us that basically he used to admit like 18 patients a day, I think. Now he's able to admit 24 or 25. I think it was like 40% increase in the number of patients he admits every day. And now he's less tired than he used to be in the past, right? Because basically because of the tool, he doesn't have to defocus so much. And this is kind of like quantifiable, I would say, story. The other one that is like amazing, I was thrilled when I heard it. There is a doctor, pulmonologist in Brazil, that unfortunately was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease a couple of years ago, and because of this disease, he was not able to comfortably type on the keyboard and actually create the EHR record. And because of that, he felt super not confident of delivering the diagnosis, the consultation, etc., because he felt that like he might be seen as he's unable to like, you know, to be a doctor, etc. Whereas it was not true. Like, you know, his brain functions like normally, and like he's able to deliver like um, uh, the right diagnosis. So he started using Noa Notes, and then like, you know, basically all the problems are gone. I mean, like the problems with typing on keyboard, right? So like he's like he doesn't have to do it, and he doesn't like, although he still obviously struggles with the disease, like he now can admit patients comfortably, and like, you know, again he feels super confident, etc. So like it was like amazing story to hear, even in this like administrative burden thing, right? So I believe like we already deliver a lot of value here, and like this is where doctors, what doctors really value, and they want to continue, and they want to let us in. Starting with the administrative part is not only easier from the technical perspective, it's also easier to bring to the market and get doctors adoption, right? Because this is where they feel the pains. This is where they struggle, and they are happy to have someone help them with that. So this is like partially on purpose to start with this thing, also because that will mm, help doctors get comfortable with the technology, to see that it's not a devil. So basically you can use it and it can be helpful, right? And then we can start offering this for other parts of the of their profession. But I would also say like thinking about adoption of AI with doctors or not, it it's really always about like what value you deliver, what pain points you address, or like what opportunities you bring, right? So like it shouldn't be like, hey doctor, we have the new AI tech toy, like would you like to play with it, right? It's going to replace like obviously it's not like that. I like, first of all, I don't believe AI is going to replace doctors, but we definitely like lack them, and like the number of them, so like there will be a lot of work for them. But what I wanted to say is you should always start with the what value you would like to deliver. So like for instance, we also work with a tool called Previsit AI that helps doctors get part of the interview with the patient before the visit. So like those like basic questions like when have your symptoms started, do you have any allergies, chronic diseases, do you take any drugs, etc. um, and like obviously if we ask doctors, hey, would you like us to run part of the interview for you, they say no, like I don't like it, it's part of my diagnosis process, it's part of my job, I don't want you to do it, like go away. But like if we ask them, so but doctor, like dear doctor, how often does it happen that the patient comes to your office and they don't remember when have the symptoms started, and like it takes them minutes to recall, right? Or like how often does it happen that the patient does not remember what's the name of the drugs they take, right? And actually oh wow, that actually happens a couple of days, a couple of times a day, right? So like yes, like if you can help us with that, that's sure, that I want to use it. So it's about this like being able to, like, first of all, knowing your customers, your end users, and knowing what are their problems, and then being able to address it with the first smithing, sales process, sales pitch, onboarding, etc. Right? That's one of the learnings I would say from like building and getting things to the market. That's not only about the product and the solutions, also how you pitch it, how you describe it, how you pinpoint the pain points.
I really like your approach here because, yeah, you mentioned that you involve doctors very early in the process. I think that it's very helpful because they're getting used to using AI, and then you also have some feedback to it. So yeah, I think that's a really great practice. And we can imagine that navigating healthcare across different countries is also challenging, especially when each system has its own rules, levels of digital maturity, and expectations from doctors. So how much does the product really need to change from one market to another? Have you come across any surprising differences or insights along the way?
So obviously there are some differences. I mean, like we're thinking about Noa Notes, there are not so much difference in the product at the moment. We obviously built in some customizations or personalization options for the doctor. So like every doctor can personalize them to themselves. So like obviously they then personalize to what's needed by the market at that time. But like for instance, one of the amazing differences, super interesting differences is like, but it's not only visible in the AI new product, but also in the like everyday life. We know like in Poland we tend to complain, right? Like, and it's like our like
Yes.
um,
That's true.
national disadvantage, or like hobby. Um, so we can call it also like constructive feedback, but at the same time. So I would say the difference, like when we first delivered Noa Notes to the doctors in a couple of countries, we delivered in um, Brazil and Mexico. And at that time, we used to still do quite a lot of typos or misspellings with drug names and that kind of stuff, right? So like the difference is that like doctors in Mexico and Brazil said, "Oh yeah, you make some mistakes, but I just fix them and I go on," right? So like, and that's it. And like basically, I'm super happy that you deliver this. Like I'm thankful. Like you solve my problems. Like let's like let's rock the world together. At the same time, when we go to Poland, it's like, oh no, like you still make mistakes here and there. If it's like not 100% ready, then we have to. I'm not going to use it. I'm joking. Like it's like half joking, half serious. I mean, like one reason for that is like we used to explained by like our tendency to complain in Poland. But the other thing is like actually doctors in Poland are obliged to use electronic health record for years already. So that means that they already have their own tips and tricks on, like, using the templates, copy pasting stuff, etc., the reusing stuff. So like if something is like 80% ready for them, it's not that better than the alternative they have, right? It's manual what they do these days, but it's working for them. They got used to. Doctors in Mexico, Brazil, they were not so obliged to use EHR record. They don't have those tips and tricks. So like we come as a big relief for them. That's one thing. The other thing that's quite important in the age of AI stuff is how the countries approach the regulations for data processing. One on the legal side and the other on the cultural side, I would say. So like to give you some extremes, like again in Mexico, when we talk to the doctors that like, hey, the conversation will be recorded and like we will process the audio, etc., it's like fine for them. Brazil is a little bit more strict, and then European Union has like GDPR. So like basically there are strict rules what doctors have to do and what have to ask about, etc. So for instance, they have to ask for the consent to record the consultation. But then if you go, but I would say yes, this is something that they have to oblige with, but it's known, it's fine, and like both the doctors and patients are okay with that. But then if you go to Germany, they're like obsessed about data processing, and like even like those standard things in Europe, in Poland, where like there is a consultant calling you, or a clinic, or sorry, like you call the clinic, so you want something from the clinic, and it's quite normal that you can hear that like the call is going to be recorded for the quality purposes, right? And that's okay, and like you understand it, you go on. And then in Germany, like most probably patients will hang up, right? Because like if it's going to be recorded, I'm not going to use it. So that's like yet another one. So we have to navigate this both from the regulations perspective, I mean, like legal terms and conditions, etc., but also from the adoption and pitch, and like how we help doctors start using this in real life.
Okay, so as I understand, it's very helpful to know this, for example, cultural differences, so you can interpret the feedback in the right way. And then knowing this regulations is also important in healthcare.
Yeah. That's very insightful, actually, working with different countries. So I wanted to switch away from the healthcare just for a minute, because as mentioned before, I wanted to ask about your personal technical journey, sort of. This is something that I'm very interested myself about. So I was wondering, because you transitioned from a technical role into a more business-oriented one,
Yep.
and I was just wondering from your experience, so what motivated you to make that shift? And maybe it was just a natural cause of action that happened, and do you have any thoughts about it, any things that surprised you along the way, perhaps?
Yeah, so I think to some extent it was quite natural. So there was no like a single point of time, maybe one, but like yeah, let's go from the beginning. So basically, I started my career as a programmer, and as I mentioned from the very beginning, it was not only about just like releasing the project, but also like making it used, right? So like actually working on adoption. I think at that time we didn't use the terms like retention or like retention cohorts, etc. It was just like, okay, we wanted the users to use it, to grow, to the users to grow, and that the feedback to be positive, right? So like whenever we released something, we worked on this to be improved and improved. Like I remember when we released a feature in Golden Line, we as developers were actually the ones writing some kind of like release notes to the users, right? To the I would say ambassadors or heavy users discussion group, where we actually described the feature, what it was, why we released it, etc. So you had to understand it. You had to like what was the rationale, and like how does it fit the bigger picture. So it was like always there, always there. We used to work super close um, with the R&D team and UX team. At that time, I also became interested, and like I probably became also like educator on agile approach. So basically kind of like delivering things that the end user or customer is happy with, not just finishing the project, right, according to the initial specification. So then you start thinking about like, okay, how do you get the requirements, how do you iterate with them, that it is an iterative process, a lot of things might change over time, etc. So with that, I come from the I went from the developer role to through team leader and CTO at Golden Line. And again, with the CTO, I was already kind of getting into product, head of product role, and then I used to work very often, quite a lot with Mariusz, our CEO, who's like super product oriented. So it's kind of like became quite natural. And then at some point, Mariusz came and asked like if I would like to take his job as a CEO of Golden Line. So since like at that time probably for me most of it was like about the product development, and then the other part of the company runs itself with the super experienced people. There was like no red flags, no concerns, etc. Just like the proposition you don't reject. So then I spent like 4 years at the as a CEO of Golden Line, and I must admit it was like tough time. We fought a lot with LinkedIn. That is a global company with like network effects and like a lot of people networking through the with the colleagues from the other countries, etc. So it was like tough time. I learned a lot about so like some people say it's like MBA in practice, right? So like you don't get the degree, but like you actually learn like even more about running the business, about yourself, your I would say boundaries and borders and your psychological side as well. So I would say this is where I started being into business, I would say. And then when I decided to leave Golden Line, Mariusz, CEO of Docplanner, invited me to join Docplanner to start working on new products and new business lines for Docplanner. And yeah, this is kind of like that connected a couple of dots for me, kind of like ikigai, right? So like you work on the if you know this concept of like your purpose in life basically. So like both like building from scratch on the technical side, but also iterating how should it work for the end users, and then you also want to make money on that as a company, right? So like we went through that. The first two projects, actually the first one, diagnostic marketplace, we froze because we decided it's needed but not big enough for the as a separate business line. Then the other was closed, the subscription business, and then I went with primary care doctors in Italy, where we started from scratch, and then when I left, it was like 3K doctors using our services. Yeah.
I actually can tell that like this tech part of you is quite prominent, and this is my favorite question that I wanted to ask for quite a bit time now. So it's very, very difficult to surprise you with any technical novelties that are happening. So it's like when something comes up and obviously the pace of development is quite frenetic, then usually we get to surprise some people given the fact that we are really strong into these technicalities, and usually you're just ahead of it, you already heard about it, you probably have already an opinion about it. So I was just wondering, what is like your magic balance and what is like your go-to when it comes to like getting to know this stuff? Do you have like a magic, I don't know, list of subscriptions every day? You go through it like, in a sense of a routine, or do you just, I don't know, organically happen to get to know this stuff? I was just wondering, how do you balance like reading all this stuff and then also filtering out, the unimportant noise that will basically just consume too much of the time in during your day?
Yeah. I just connect to Matrix at night, and then like
Nice.
thank you for that's the magic. Thank you for your kind word. I think you're being too kind. So like I don't think there's like any like silver bullet here. So first of all, like the kind of secret sauce of Docplanner people here is that we go into the details. So it's not that like more or less we know what's there in the dashboard and like okay, more or less it's not working, hey please fix it, right? So like you usually what you want to understand what's the problem, like why it's hard to be fixed, and then like you can discuss the high level solution. So this is kind of like natural to senior people at Docplanner, I would say. But then, truth to be told, actually, I got myself pretty heavy headache in the first months after GenAI eruption, because I wanted to follow all the news, right? At that time, you couldn't follow any blog posts or podcasts, etc., because they were too slow. You had to follow Twitter, like the news were like out every hour. And then actually, yeah, I got a headache. So like a serious medical symptoms from just like switching from delivering stuff to reading about new stuff. And then like, oh my god, with those new stuff, what can you do? So like those could be the ideas, but then like when do you actually do them? So I did two things at that time. First, I got myself a detox from Twitter and the kind of like social media updates. So I actually, instead of that, I started having like half an hour or 1 hour walks without any headphones, any media, etc., just to process the things that were in my head. That was one thing. The other thing I think I learned not to be obsessed about the news. So like what you say about like, hey, something is out there, I'm already knowledgeable about it. Probably these days I'm not that much into that. I am subscribed to some communities or discussion groups that people kind of like start discussing. So like when you start getting more and more notifications during 1 hour, there is something that maybe I should have a look at. But it's more like about like understanding what it is, whether it's useful for us or not. And usually actually waiting a bit, because like what we learned is that it's not about like 2 weeks and like like you ship it and then in 2 weeks and you conquer the world. Like you actually have to do a lot of hard work to be able to verify the technology and roll it out. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that whereas the first news and first official benchmarks are usually super, super positive, then you learn that like, with your specific use case, with your specific data, like with your quality of data, it might be just different, right? So like, it's not that like, hey, this amazing technology out there is super cool, you should use it. We've built quite good validation test sets for the new stuff, for the solutions we have. So now it's much easier for us to test new toys, I would say. But we are definitely much more calm with rolling them out. So like I would say I do follow personally a lot of Substack, like people or like community groups, etc. But it's with the implementation, we are like much more calm now.
Yeah, I can imagine that it can be really overwhelming. So that's good that you found a way to make it work. And I obviously have a few follow-up questions to this matrix things, but let's leave it after the call. And yeah, so we've already covered a lot, and you've shared many valuable tips and insights with us. So the last question is, what are the key lessons you've learned that you'd like to share with other AI leaders?
I think the first one would be that the thing I already mentioned. So like with the generative AI, it's like super, super easy to build POCs. So like usually you need like 2-3 days or sorry, maybe you need like 2-3 weeks to build the POC that you can play with. So one conclusion here is that whenever you have to persuade someone about the Gen AI, maybe it's better to build the POC than to continue talking over and over. So that's one thing that is like easy and super simple. But the thing is, the flip side of the coin is that while it's super easy to build the POC, then building something that is scalable and reliable is like totally different thing. So like with the traditional development, if you have a small bug and you need a small fix, you launch a small fix and then it's fixed. Yeah. So basically you can roll it out. With the generative AI, maybe if something small is not working, then actually you realize that if you want to fix it, you have to rebuild the whole architecture. Or like with the new, like again, with the traditional development, obviously adding new features makes the whole thing more complicated. And at some point, maybe you have to decide to rewrite stuff or like refactor some stuff. With the generative AI, as I mentioned, with this like POC for Noa booking, you continue adding features, at some point it just like stops working. You have to rebuild everything from scratch, right? So that's the difference. So like POC is super easy, but don't be fooled by that, and then like you will have to spend a lot of time to get to like 80%, 90%, 100% of what you want, and this will take time, especially if you start from scratch. At the same time, I would say we have to remember. Well, I learned. I recently heard a quote from the chief product officer of OpenAI. We have to remember that the GenAI tools we use these days are the worst AI tools we are going to use in our lifetime, right? It's only going to get better and better and better. So we saw it over the last 2 years that like very often we try to optimize something, and then the new model comes out, and then basically it crashes whatever we try to build internally. So like the pace of development in this field is so fast and so strong that you really have to build on the edge of what's possible today, because probably it will be working super well in a couple of months, right? So like do not be I would say limited. Do not limit yourself by the today's capabilities of the tools. At the same time, do not limit yourself by today's costs of the technology, because it also goes down at the same time. So we have the capabilities going up and costs going down, right? So like if you do a business case with the today's tools and today's costs, maybe it doesn't work. But like if only you believe it can fly and you can deliver the value to the end users, it most probably makes sense to do it, because the cost will be much lower in a couple of months, right? So I think like GPT cost went down already like 100 times, if I'm not mistaken. At the same time, the capabilities grow a lot. And the third thing would be just like go out there and start trying, right? So like again, like building POC is super easy. So like and then deliver it to the end users, or like your customers, and see their reaction and like start playing with that. Do not try to get to the perfectly 100% ready solution. Just like start experimenting with the technology, learn the technology, and then like start delivering this to the end customers. With them you will learn. With the new releases of the technology, you will be able to deliver more and more and more.
Thank you for sharing all those tips. To be honest, it was very inspiring. So thanks for that. And we're definitely excited to see what's next. And we will be keeping our fingers crossed for more great AI projects at Docplanner. So thank you very much for our discussion, Karol.
Thank you very much. Noa from Docplanner that you are going to use, you can use today, is definitely the worst Noa. You will use all the time, right? So like it'll only get better and better every week and every month. Thank you very much for the talk.
Thank you, everybody. So this was Karol Traczykowski. I am Maciej Domagawa, and with me today was Alicja Stecz. Thanks you for listening, and see you next time.